Morning. How you doing? I hope you're really well. I hope, your week has come to a good start. 1 second. I'm double recording. Let me stop that. The technology, man. The technology. Today, I wanted to give you a bit of a live workshop. And there's 2 parts. So I will do the first part today, and then I will be back tomorrow around a similar time. I will confirm it on my stories in advance. We can kind of talk further about this. Today, I want to talk about the messy middle. And the messy middle, probably, of whatever it is that you're working on, probably takes up a massive chunk of whatever it is that you're going for. And I feel like there isn't nearly enough help to support you and navigate you through those moments. So when you get cracking on your project, your anti-gene, your project, your vision, your goal, your big idea, whatever it might be, there is so much help and encouragement in the beginning. So you think, right, okay, I've got my stationery, I've got my post-it notes, I've got my whatever. And equally, at the end, once you've achieved this thing, you might get the congratulations. You might be able to then share it on social media if that's how you like to do things. You actually get to be, do, and have and feel the actual thing. I want to talk about the messy middle, though, today, because not many people talk about that. Not many people talk about it when they are in it. And if you're going to be in that messy middle because I don't think it's a third. I think it's maybe 10% with a big chunky 80% in the middle and a 10% at the end. I think that's what it is. So I want to give you some really practical tools today of how you navigate the messy middle. And it came to mind because I had a notification or something kind of prompted me this. 10 years ago, I was in a messy middle, exactly around this time. I was in the moment of really studying hard for my coaching qualification. I was working full time as well because I couldn't just study. I needed to all make it work. And I set myself a goal to do this within a year. I began in May, so November was about halfway. And I got to this point where I suddenly thought, I felt like I almost hit a wall, really. I felt really exhausted. I felt like, I guess when you're learning a new skill or you're going for something, you're going to have moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. You lose confidence. Maybe you doubt that it's a possibility or that you can do it. And I really was in that place. And when you're in that place, it can be really easy to stay in that place. And yet, I know from my logical brain, staying in that place of like, oh, it's really hard, I'm stuck, I don't know what I'm doing, it doesn't help you either. In fact, it just makes you feel worse. So I want to give you some things, and I'm going to go through the first ones today. And as I say, I'll be back tomorrow with the second. Depending on what you're working on at the moment, or the shifts or the changes that you need to make or you want to make. When you're feeling that messy middle, when you're feeling like you just don't know the answers or it feels really hard, the first thing that I want you to do is acknowledge it and own it and name the feelings and the situation and your emotions. I really try and do this with my children, even though I'm not like, we're going to name our emotions now. I'm very much like, how are you feeling? Tell me more. What's upset you? What do you need? I'm really always, trying to do that with them. And bizarrely, that is way easier than doing that for myself. Yeah, sometimes it's harder to do it for myself. And asking myself those questions of, what's going on? What do you need? Why are you feeling like this? What's coming up for you right now? So when you're in that messy middle, the first thing that you want to do is just to stop and pause. Almost like that sense of, am I hot? Am I cold? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need an early night? Where do I feel any pain in my body? Like all of those things, really acknowledging. And so when I did this exercise in the middle of the messy middle, I first and foremost was like, I'm really tired. I'm really overwhelmed. I feel really disorganized. That was one of the things. Like I felt scattered. And again, as I went through this and as I applied that gentle quality to what I was doing, I was able just to slowly scoop things to the surface and go, okay, this is what it is. This is what's going on. Great. And suddenly once you start to see what things are, you can make decisions as to what you do with them next. The second thing, I think it's really important to consistently reassess what's going on in terms of, does this still work for me? So in terms of this messy middle, I felt very committed at the beginning of this, like I'm going to do this thing in a year. I'm going to do it in a year and it's going to be done and let's go for it. And I think sometimes we can do that and we can give ourselves like really short time spans, or we want the transformation really quickly, or whatever it might be. And I think giving yourself that permission to reassess the goal. Is the goal still right? Is the goal still feeling really good? And being open to tweaking and adjusting. And also, is the timeline still working for you? So 6 months in, was it still practical, realistic, feeling good that I was going to do this thing in a year? How did that feel? And sometimes what we can do is say, yeah, that feels good for me. Yeah, okay, right. This is part of it. This is. I'm still committed to the original plan. But sometimes there have been things where I've gone, this is going to take a lot longer than I thought it was going to. And being willing to have that conversation with yourself will allow yourself to make better decisions for yourself. And one of the best things that going to hot yoga has taught me, because even though it's supposed to be about your mind and your body and your spirit and all of that, I always come out with golden business nuggets where I'm like, oh, right. And that is something that I've spoken about so often. It's about adjusting. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to make these very big binary choices of like, I'm doing it or I'm not. I love it or I hate it. And to live at different extremes of the spectrum. And actually, a little adjustment is going to be really golden for you, because it gives yourself that permission just to ease something slightly. You know, when suddenly, like, there's some people, maybe you've lived with them before, and they like all the lights on, like, let's just turn, or like, right, all the switches are going on. And I was saying this to my pals over the weekend. We've got, I don't know why, and I don't know who did the electricity of this house, but in our kitchen, we've got 14 spotlights. 14. Nobody needs that many lighting. We've got lighting underneath the kitchen thing. We've got it, like, it's insane. And one of the first things that we've done since being here is we've bought a dimmer situation, because we wanted to have that flexibility of adjusting stuff. And so I want you to think about, what do you need to do and what things would be helpful in this process. And sometimes this might be like, I just need an extra month. Like, I know that I said a year, but I need an extra month, because that month is going to give me that wiggle room. And I think also it's about tuning in to how that's going to feel. And sometimes it's that moment of saying, if I had an extra month, yes, I might feel a bit disappointed that I didn't do it in my original goal of a year, but also I know that giving myself an extra month will bring more fulfillment. It will bring more joy. It will bring more ease. It will bring more creativity. And so really playing around with how you're going to feel in that moment is going to be helpful. I'm going to give you one more today, and then the rest we'll do tomorrow. I want you to think about reframing the messy middle and what it means and how much power it has. I'm really glad to say that over the last few years, people have been much more in tune with what their mental health needs and what they like, what they dislike, and really paying attention to their thoughts and feelings. And I think for so many of us, so often for many, many years, we've been in that position where people have just told us to just get your head down, just get the job done, just do the thing, just crack on, all of those things. And so often in my life, those phrases have not been helpful because somebody just saying, just work harder, just go for it. It almost feels like somebody getting stuck. You know, when you're trying to parallel park or reverse out of a parking space, it gets to a point where you just got to turn the wheel because where you are, you can't move. And so you've got to be able to turn the wheel to make things move and make things go for it again. What I want to talk about is finding your way through this in a realistic way. And there are, again, looking at a different spectrum, there are many different versions of this. So if something is making you unwell, or if something is completely contradicting or having a really negative effect to the point where you need additional support, maybe you shouldn't be doing this thing. However, there are some things as you're moving through the goal, whether it's, I don't feel like doing this thing today, or I'm going to have to dig deep, or, oh, I wasn't expecting this thing to come up. I hadn't done this thing before. I don't know how to do it. Those are going to be part of life as well. And I think finding ways that you can be in alignment with your goal, but also feeling like you don't have to stop immediately when it gets tough. So if I talk about going on a run, for example, quite often, if it's a nice day, I'll feel excited about going. I'll definitely feel excited once it's done. But for most runs, I will have certain times in that run where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm not enjoying myself. This doesn't feel good. And there are, again, different versions of that. Like sometimes it's like, this doesn't feel good because my ankle really hurts today. So actually, I'm going to take the decision to stop and slow down and forget any kind of timings that were happening. I have to listen to my body here. This is not a good idea to keep pushing through. But sometimes there's going to be moments in that messy middle where it's like, come on, Raby, you can do this. Where you have to have that word with yourself. It's like, okay, you're going to have to play around with your bag of tricks today. And I'll play little games with myself. I'm like, oh, I wonder. And one of the things I've spoken about before, in our family, we always look for yellow cars. Luna started it when she was, 2 or something. And she got obsessed with seeing yellow cars. Sometimes I'll play that. Sometimes I'll think, right, I'm going to slow down here. Or sometimes I'll change my route at the last minute because I know that I'm going to need the distraction and some inspiration, or like I'll just go a different way because I know that it's going to make me feel good. Sometimes I'll change my state where I've maybe been listening to a podcast and then I go, I'm going to have to crank up the tunes here. Right, I need a bit of a rhythm, I need a bit of a beat to get moving. And so what I want to say is that if you can be in support of yourself in that messy middle, and in a realistic way, that it's okay to have a bag of tricks that are available for you. So like I was saying with the run there, the bag of tricks that you might need in terms of moving closer and moving through your goal, you might have to increase them. And you might need some extra support. You might need to ask for help. You might need to take something else off your plate. And I think sometimes that pressure that everything is going to be fine, and if I'm not feeling like a mermaid the whole way, like, this is all amazing and fantastic, as I move through this, then I'm doing something wrong. The reason that lots of people don't talk about the messy middle is because usually it's messy, and usually people are so in it, they can't document things at the same time. So, for example, last night I went to yin yoga. I took my mum, it was great. And it's the easiest sell, yin yoga. You basically lie on the floor in a lovely, warm, cocoon-like way. You have blankets, you have bolsters, you do a really great stretch. It's lovely. It's so nice. But when I'm doing that, and when I'm being committed to releasing and stretching and looking like my hair's everywhere at the end of the session, or wearing some like old joggers to do it in, I'm not thinking about documenting it because I'm in that moment. And so today, I want you to look at your messy middle. Maybe what's happening now, maybe what you're working on, maybe there's something that you're trying to get off the ground, something you're trying to make progress with. And first and foremost, I want you, it's called yin yoga, by the way. There's loads of videos on YouTube. It's amazing. It's so good. It's really good for, I'm clearly not a teacher, but it's really great for getting into those, I think they call it the fascia, of like getting into the deep bits of your muscles. Also, it's fantastic for your nervous system. They do a lot of meridian points, so there's a lot of acupuncture and, pressing at certain areas. Also, you have like, like you wake up in the morning and you have like the biggest wee of your life the next day, which may be TMI, but I don't know. It just kind of, for me, it feels like it just resets my system, which I love on a Sunday night. So today I would love you to think about all the things that have brought you to this messy middle. Celebrate how far you've come. And what was happening in that moment was I was too busy being in the like, it's hard, or I felt like the wheel was locked, that I didn't acknowledge that I'd got to this moment already. I'd got to this moment where I'd been doing this thing for 6 months and things were happening, things were moving. Hadn't really celebrated the fact that I'd done the hardest bit, really, which was to make the commitment, which was probably to make the payment, like a big chunky amount of money to do my coaching qualification. And I think so often we can just look inside and look at where we are right now. But please, please celebrate how far you've come. Celebrate and notice all of those little tiny moves that you've made already, because they might help to refocus you and to remind you of all the excellent things that you're capable of. I hope this has been useful. If it has, please share it in your stories or share this episode with somebody, a pal. And as always, my emails, my DMs are always open. So if there's something you're like, yeah, I'm working on this thing, don't tell anybody. Put it out there. Put it out there. I always talk about my free sessions as like declare and share. I think they're really important sometimes. Sometimes you just got to say it out loud. And I think with this messy middle is sometimes you just need to say it out loud of like, God, it's really tough at the moment. Or maybe it's saying to a partner or your mum, or I don't know, some other arrangement that you've made of like, I just need to find a way that this is going to work for me or be a bit easier at the moment. Just so you've got that gentleness and that kindness with yourself. If you haven't tried yin yoga, go and check it out. It's amazing. It's so good. I haven't got my bolster up here, but one of those big bolsters are fantastic. Just for like putting under your legs and relaxing. Yeah, all of that. All right, I'll be back tomorrow around the same sort of time for part 2. I hope you have a lovely day. And as always, do check out my website, my new Work With Me page, all that good stuff. Sending lots of love and good vibes as always. And I'll see you tomorrow.